Hello everyone, welcome back to Naruto Fix. Today we have another interesting What If Naruto story. Which is what if Naruto was betrayed by Konoha and returned years later with Sasuke, Itachi, and Madara on his side. Part 1. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy this content. Now, without wasting any time, let's begin. The night Naruto was betrayed, it didn't start with anger. It started with silence. Rain fell over Naruto Uzumaki as he stood in the center of Konoha, surrounded by shinobi, not enemies, but his own people. Naruto Uzumaki. A cold voice echoed. You are under arrest. Naruto blinked. Confused. What? From the front, Tsunade stepped forward. Her expression wasn't angry. It was heavy. You are being accused, she said slowly, of conspiring with rogue shinobi, and hiding dangerous power from the village. Naruto laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it didn't make sense. You're joking, right? Quote. No one laughed. The Anbu tightened their formation. Naruto's smile slowly faded. You're serious? From the crowd, whispers began. Monster. Traitor. He was always dangerous. Naruto's fists clenched. After everything. Then, a familiar voice. Just come quietly, Naruto. Naruto's eyes widened slightly. Kakashi Hatake stepped forward. We'll figure it out. Naruto stared at him. You too. Silence. That was his answer. And that silence broke something inside him. So this is it, Naruto whispered. You all decided already. Tsunade looked away slightly. We have no choice. Naruto laughed again. This time, empty. Yeah, you always had a choice. The air shifted, not with rage, but with something deeper. Disappointment. I won't fight you, Naruto said quietly. Everyone froze. But I'm not staying either. Quote. And in the next instant, he vanished. Gone. No chakra trace. No warning. Just gone. And that night, Konoha lost its greatest protector. Years passed. The world changed. Wars rose again. Dark forces moved in silence. And Konoha started to realize its mistake. Because without Naruto, things got worse. Stronger enemies appeared. Unknown threats grew. And even the strongest shinobi struggled. Until one day, the sky cracked. A massive explosion echoed outside the village. Shinobi rushed out. And what they saw made their blood run cold. Standing at the edge of destruction was a man they thought they lost. Older, calmer, far more dangerous. Naruto Uzumaki had returned. But he wasn't alone. Behind him, three figures stood. Legends. Monsters. God-level shinobi. Sasuke Uchiha. Itachi Uchiha. And the one who shook the world itself. Madara Uchiha. Silence covered the battlefield. Because this wasn't an attack. This was judgment. Naruto looked at the village. The same place he once called home. Konoha. He said softly. Did you miss me? No one answered. Because everyone felt it. This Naruto was not the same. And this time, he didn't come back as a hero. He came back with power beyond imagination. And allies the world feared. The war had just begun. The moment his voice faded into the air, the entire battlefield froze. Not because of fear alone, but because of the overwhelming presence standing before Konoha. And Naruto Uzumaki took a slow step forward, his cloak moving slightly with the wind, his eyes calm, too calm, like nothing in front of high mattered anymore, and behind him stood Sasuke Uchiha, silent, watching everything with his Rinnegan, while Itachi Uchiha observed the situation with unreadable eyes, and towering above them all in presence was Madara Uchiha, his arms crossed, a faint smirk on his face as if this entire situation amused him. So this is the village that cast you out, Madara said, his voice carrying effortlessly across the field, and Naruto didn't respond immediately, his gaze fixed on the gates of Konoha, on the same place he once dreamed of protecting. Yeah, he said quietly, and that single word carried years of silence, pain, and change, and suddenly, the gates opened, shinobi pouring out, forming defensive lines, Anbu taking positions, tension rising instantly, and from the front stepped Kakashi Hatake, his expression serious, but not hostile. Naruto, he said, his voice calm but heavy. And for a moment, everything paused, because this wasn't just any confrontation. This was history, and Naruto looked at him, not with anger, but with something far colder. You still look the same, Naruto said, and Kakashi's gaze softened just slightly. And you've changed, he replied, and Naruto smirked faintly. Yeah, I had to, and the air tightened, because both of them knew this wasn't a reunion, this was something else entirely, and Kakashi stepped forward slightly. We made a mistake, he said, and those words shocked everyone behind him, because the Hokage admitting fault like this wasn't something they expected, but Naruto didn't react the way they hoped. Instead, he chuckled softly. A mistake, he repeated, and then his eyes sharpened. You called me a traitor, hunted me, erased my name, and his voice dropped. That's not a mistake, that's a decision. And silence fell again, heavier than before, and Sasuke stepped slightly forward now, his presence sharp. We didn't come here to talk, he said coldly, and Madara smirked. Finally, something interesting, while Itachi remained silent, but his gaze lingered on Konoha longer than the others, as if remembering something. And Kakashi raised his hand slightly, signaling the shinobi to hold position. Then why are you here? He asked, and Naruto looked past him, toward the village, toward everything that once defined him. I came to see something, he said, to see if this place was still worth protecting. And T's statement alone sent chills through everyone, because it meant one thing. This wasn't just revenge, this was judgment, and before anyone could respond, a sudden surge of chakra erupted from Naruto, not explosive, but heavy, suffocating, covering the battlefield like a storm about to break, forcing even experienced shinobi to step back slightly, and Sakura, standing among them, clenched her fists, her eyes wide as she looked at him. Naruto, she whispered, barely recognizing the person in front of her, and Naruto's gaze shifted briefly toward her, and for a split second, something flickered. Something familiar, but it disappeared just as quickly, replaced by that same cold calm. Don't come closer, he said quietly, not as a threat, but as a warning, and the air grew heavier again, because now it was clear. This Naruto wasn't here to be welcomed back, and he wasn't here to ask for forgiveness. And as the tension reached its peak, Madara took a step forward, his grin widening. Enough talking, he said. Let's see if this village deserves to stand. And the moment those words fell, the ground beneath them cracked slightly, chakra rising across both sides, because now, the confrontation was about to turn into something far bigger than words. And Naruto didn't stop him, didn't interfere, because deep down, he wanted to see it too, what Konoha had become without him. The moment Madara Uchiha stepped forward, the entire battlefield seemed to tilt under his presence, the ground cracking beneath his feet as his chakra surged outward like a storm that had been waiting for years to be unleashed, and the shinobi of Konoha instinctively tightened their formation, fear visible even on the faces of experienced jonin, because this wasn't just any enemy. This was Madara, and beside him stood Naruto Uzumaki, watching silently, not stopping him, not commanding him, just observing, and that alone made the situation even more terrifying, because it meant Naruto wasn't here to control the destruction, he was here to judge it. And Kakashi Hatake stepped forward, his Sharingan eye focused, his voice calm but firm. All units, defensive formation, and instantly, barriers began to rise, chakra walls forming across the front lines, Anbu spreading out, preparing for impact, while behind Naruto, Sasuke Uchiha remained still, his gaze sharp as he watched the village react. Their organized Sasuke muttered, and Itachi responded quietly, they learned from past mistakes, but Madara laughed softly, let's see if they learned enough, and in the next instant, he moved, not fast in a way the eye could follow, but overwhelmingly fast, appearing directly in front of the defense VE line, his hand raised, and with a single motion, the barrier shattered, not cracked, not weakened, completely broken, sending a shockwave across the battlefield that forced multiple shinobi to fall back. Pathetic, Madara said calmly, and chaos erupted, jutsu firing from all directions, fire, wind, lightning, all aimed at him, but none of it mattered, none of it slowed him down, as he walked forward through it all like it didn't exist, and Naruto watched, silent, his eyes tracking everything, analyzing, judging, and Sakura, standing behind Kakashi, clenched her fists, her heart pounding as she looked at him. Naruto, stop this, she whispered, but he didn't move, didn't respond, because this wasn't about stopping Madara, this was about seeing the truth, and Sasuke finally stepped forward slightly, his Rinnegan glowing faintly. Should we step in? He asked, and Naruto shook his head slowly. Not yet, he replied, his voice calm. I want to see how far they've come, and that answer alone made it clear. This wasn't a random attack, this was a test, a brutal, unforgiving test of Konoha's strength, and back on the battlefield, Kakashi moved instantly, appearing in front of Madara with Kamui activated, attempting to distort space itself around him, but Madara reacted just as quickly, countering with overwhelming force, their clash sending another shockwave outward, and for a moment, it looked like Konoha could hold, like they could resist. But then Madara's power surged again, stronger, heavier, pushing Kakashi back, forcing him to retreat slightly, and the shinobi line began to break, not completely, but enough to show the difference in power, and Naruto's eyes narrowed slightly. So this is your current strength, he murmured, and behind him, Itachi spoke quietly, they're trying, but they're not enough, and Naruto didn't deny it, because he could see it clearly, the hesitation, the fear, the lack of unity they once had when fighting together. And as Madara continued advancing, unstoppable, the village behind them coming loser into danger, Naruto finally took a step forward, his presence shifting the entire battlefield instantly, his chakra rising, not explosively, but enough to make even Madara pause slightly, and Sasuke's gaze sharpened, because he knew what that meant, and Naruto spoke, his voice calm but carrying across the field, that's enough, and everything stopped, just for a moment, Madara turning his head slightly, a faint smirk on his face, already, he said, and Naruto stepped forward slowly, his eyes now locked on the village, not on Madara, not on the shinobi, but on Konoha itself. I've seen enough, he said, and that single sentence carried weight, because now, the judgment was about to be made. The battlefield fell into a suffocating silence the moment Naruto Uzumaki spoke those words, as if even the air itself was waiting to hear what came next, and across from him, Kakashi Hatake stood still, his expression unreadable but tense, because he understood, this wasn't just a fight anymore, this was a verdict, and Naruto slowly stepped forward, his presence alone forcing the ground to crack slightly beneath him, his chakra heavy, controlled, overwhelming without even trying. You've gotten stronger, Naruto said calmly, his eyes scanning the shinobi standing before him, but strength alone isn't enough, and Kakashi's gaze tightened slightly. Then what is? He asked, and Naruto stopped, his eyes locking onto him. Trust, he replied, and that single word hit harder than a NY attack, because everyone there knew, Konoha had broken that once, and before anyone could respond, Naruto raised his hand slowly, not to attack, not yet, but the moment he did, the entire battlefield reacted, chakra shifting violently, the ground trembling as if something massive was about to happen. And Sakura stepped forward instinctively, her voice shaking slightly. Naruto, please, This isn't you. And for a brief second, just a second, his gaze flickered toward her, something soft, something familiar, but it disappeared almost instantly, replaced again by that same calm, distant look. This is me, he said quietly, and then, he moved, not like before, not rushing, not overwhelming, but precise, controlled, appearing directly in front of the shinobi line, and before anyone could react, his hand came down, not as a destructive attack, but as something else entirely, a pulse of chakra, spreading outward across the battlefield, and suddenly, everything stopped, jutsu mid-cast, movements frozen, not by force, but by suppression, an overwhelming control that shut everything down at once, and Naruto looked around slowly, his voice calm. This is the difference, he said. You fight with power, but I fight with control, and Kakashi's eyes widened slightly, because this wasn't the Naruto he trained, this wasn't the Naruto who relied on raw strength. This was something else entirely, something far more dangerous, and behind Naruto, Sasuke Uchiha watched silently, a faint smirk on his face. He's changed more than they realize, he said, while Itachi Uchiha observed quietly. This is what isolation creates, and Madara Uchiha crossed his arms, amused. Now this is interesting, and Naruto slowly turned back toward Konoha, his gaze cold but steady. I came here expecting feel something, he said, anger, hatred, maybe even regret, and he paused for a moment, his eyes scanning the village one last time, but there's nothing, and that statement hit harder than anything else, because it meant the bond was gone, completely gone, and Kakashi stepped forward despite the pressure. Naruto, it's not too late, he said, and Naruto looked at him again, his expression unchanged. It is, he replied simply, and then, his chakra surged again, stronger this time, the suppression lifting as the air cracked around him, and everyone braced themselves instinctively, because they could feel it. This wasn't just pressure anymore, this was power about to be unleashed, and Naruto raised his hand again, this time not to hold back, but to decide. Konoha, he said quietly, prove me wrong, and the moment those words fell, the battlefield erupted again, because now, this wasn't a test anymore, this was a challenge, and if Konoha failed this time, there would be no second chance. The moment those words left his lips, the entire battlefield ignited again, this time not as chaos, but as desperation, because every shinobi present understood what Naruto Uzumaki meant. Was their last chance, and Kakashi Hatake stepped forward without hesitation, his voice cutting through the tension. All units, no fear, no hesitation. And for the first time since Naruto arrived, the shinobi moved with purpose, not just reacting, not just defending, but committing, fully, completely. And Naruto watched silently as they came at him, not one by one, but together, coordinated, layered, a true united force, and his eyes narrowed slightly, because this was different, and from the front, Kakashi appeared instantly, Kamui activating as he aimed to distort Naruto's position. While from above, multiple Jonin launched synchronized attacks, sealing techniques, elemental jutsu, all converging at once, and from the sides, Anbu moved in perfect formation, cutting off escape routes, forcing Naruto into the center of a calculated assault, and for a brief moment, it looked like they had him. Like this time, they were truly fighting as one, and Naruto stood there, unmoving, watching everything unfold, his expression unreadable, until the attacks reached him. And then, he moved, not to escape, not to overpower, but to flow, his body shifting with impossible precision, avoiding NG attacks by the smallest margins, redirecting others with minimal movement, letting some pass entirely, as if he already knew exactly what was coming, and Sakura, watching from behind, realized it instantly. He's reading everything, she whispered, because Naruto wasn't just reacting. He was anticipating, understanding, adapting faster than all of them combined, and in the next moment, he stepped forward, slipping through their formation effortlessly, his presence breaking their rhythm instantly, and Kakashi turned sharply, attempting to follow, but Naruto was already behind them. His voice calm, better, he said, but still not enough, and the shinobi turned again, regrouping quickly, refusing to break this time, refusing to fall apart, and Naruto's gaze lingered on him for a moment longer, and for the first time, there was a slight change in his expression. Not softness, not RMTH, but acknowledgement, and behind him, Sasuke Uchiha spoke quietly, "They're improving," and Itachi Uchiha nodded slightly, "because they're fighting for something real," and Madara scoffed lightly, "We'll see how long that lasts." But Naruto didn't respond, his eyes still on Konoha, because he was looking for something else. Not strength, not skill, but will, and suddenly, he raised his hand again, and this time, the chakra that gathered wasn't controlled, it was overwhelming, massive, enough to make the entire battlefield tremble, the sky darkening slightly as if reacting to it, and everyone froze for a split second, because they felt it. This wasn't a test anymore, this was power that could wipe everything out in an instant, and Sakura stepped forward instinctively, her voice breaking slightly, "Naruto, stop." But he didn't lower his hand, didn't hesitate. "This is your final chance," he said, his voice calm but absolute. "Show me that this village is worth saving," and the chakra in his hand grew denser, heavier, forming into something destructive beyond anything they had faced before, and Kakashi clenched his fist, his voice sharp, "All units, stand your ground." And this time, no one hesitated, no one stepped back, they held their position, even knowing what was coming, even feeling that overwhelming power, and Naruto watched them closely, every movement, every expression, every ounce of resolve. And for a brief moment, everything slowed, because this wasn't just about power anymore, this was about belief, and the next moment would decide everything. The air tightened to a breaking point. Not a single shinobi moved. Not one stepped back. And in front of them, Naruto Uzumaki held that overwhelming chakra in his hand, enough power to erase everything in front of him. But his eyes weren't focused on destruction. They were watching, judging, waiting. "So this is your answer?" Naruto said quietly. Because even now, no one ran, no one begged. They stood together. Kakashi stepped forward, not as Hokage, but as someone who had once believed in Naruto. "We were wrong," Kakashi Hatake said. The battlefield froze. "We failed you." Those words hit harder than any attack. Naruto's chakra flickered slightly. Just for a moment. Behind him, Sasuke Uchiha narrowed his eyes. "Naruto." But Naruto didn't respond. Kakashi continued. "But this village isn't just its mistakes. It's the people who are still trying to protect it." Sakura stepped forward next. Her fists clenched. Her voice trembling, but strong. "We didn't give up on you," Sakura Haruno said. "Even when you were gone." Naruto's grip tightened. Hinata's name wasn't spoken, but her presence was felt. The memories started pushing back. The ramen shop. Team 7. Training. Laughter. Everything he buried. And for the first time, Naruto's hand trembled. Madara noticed instantly. "TCH, Madara," Uchiha muttered. "Don't tell me you're hesitating." Quote. Sasuke's gaze sharpened. "This is your choice, Naruto." And Itachi remained silent, watching, because he understood something the others didn't. This wasn't a battle anymore. This was Naruto's war with himself. Naruto closed his eyes slowly. That overwhelming chakra still burning in his hand. "You're still the same," he said quietly. A pause. Still believing. His eyes opened again. Not cold this time. Not empty. But conflicted. "Even after everything I became." Kakashi didn't hesitate. "Because you never stopped being Naruto." Silence. Deep. Heavy. And then, Naruto moved. Not forward. Not to attack. But upward. In a flash, he appeared high above the battlefield. And then, that massive chakra was released. But not at the village. It shot into the sky. Exploding far above Konoha. A blinding light filled the heavens. The shockwave spread. But harmless. The attack had been redirected. Everyone below froze. Because they understood. Naruto had made his choice. He landed slowly back on the ground. Facing Konoha. You passed, he said calmly. Relief flooded the battlefield. But it didn't last. Because Naruto's expression didn't soften. But this doesn't fix what you did. The air grew tense again. Because this wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. Sasuke stepped beside him. So what now? Naruto looked at the village one last time. Now. A pause. We deal with the real problem. Everyone froze. Kakashi frowned slightly. What do you mean? Naruto's gaze darkened again. The reason I was framed. A heavy silence followed. Was never Konoha. Sasuke's eyes narrowed. It was something else. Madara smirked faintly. Now this just got interesting. And Itachi finally spoke. So it begins. Naruto turned away from the village. The ones who destroyed everything. His voice dropped. Are still out there. The wind passed slowly. Because this wasn't the end. This was the beginning of something far bigger. Naruto didn't return as a hero. Not yet. But he also didn't return as an enemy. He returned as something else. A force. One that would decide the fate of the entire shinobi world. The battlefield slowly settled. The sky cleared. The destruction stopped. But the tension didn't. Naruto Uzumaki stood facing Konoha one last time, the wind moving his cloak slightly, his expression no longer filled with rage, but not at peace either. Because what was broken wasn't fully healed. Behind him, Sasuke Uchiha watched silently. Itachi Uchiha remained calm, already understanding the bigger picture. And Madara Uchiha smirked faintly, sensing what was coming next. Naruto took a slow step forward. Then stopped. Konoha, he said quietly. Everyone waited. No one spoke. You didn't break completely. A pause. But you're still not the village I believed in. Those words hit deep. Kakashi Hatake lowered his head slightly. Not in defeat, but in acceptance. We'll become better, Kakashi said. Even if it takes everything. Naruto looked at him. Long. Silent. Then, he turned away. Make sure you do. No anger. No shouting. Just a quiet command. Because this time, Naruto wasn't asking. He was deciding. The wind picked up slightly. We're leaving, Naruto said. Sasuke nodded. Finally. Quote. Madara chuckled. This world might actually get interesting again. Itachi's gaze lingered on Konoha for a moment longer. Then he turned as well. Without another word, the four of them began to walk away. No one stopped them. No one could. Because this wasn't an ending. It was a shift. A change in balance. As Naruto walked ahead, his voice came one last time. Next time we meet. A pause. It won't be like this. Quote. And with that, they vanished. Gone. Leaving behind a village that finally understood what it had lost, and what it had nearly destroyed. Far beyond Konoha, Naruto stopped briefly, his eyes looking toward the horizon. We're close, he said. Sasuke stepped beside him. To the truth, Itachi added quietly, and to the real enemy. Madara smirked. Good. I was getting bored. Naruto clenched his fist slightly. This time, his eyes hardened. No one escapes. Because now, this wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about Konoha anymore. It was about something far bigger. The ones who caused everything. The ones hiding in the shadows. And the war that was about to begin.